Right, that was taking way too long to siphon as it was in the bathtub, so we're gonna basically try and siphon it off the end of this, ram this copper pipe into there, and pull of gravity should hopefully help it siphon out quicker. So we've got another Valent Ecotech Pro. I was just here for a standard service. This was another job through an insurance company. They're unfortunately not covering the turret seal, so the turret seal's failed in there. It looks all nice and clean. Sorry? No, he's only advising to disconnect the boiler because I said to him if they don't authorize the work, then that will be the next step. But I've got the parts, so I'm going to get it done for you. So no worries, don't worry about it. Yeah, so customers just having dramas with insurance companies because there's so many exclusions. But yeah, when you look at it, it looks fairly clean. There's not much crusting. There's a bit of hair, it looks like, but not really much crusting. But as soon as I put my analyzer in there, yeah, it just started pinging off. CO went up to about, I think, 17 ppm. So turret seal definitely needs changing. Luckily, I've got all the bits in the van as van stock. So we've got the turret seal and a flue seal. So let's get it off and get it done and keep the boiler alive for them. Now, I think I mentioned this before in one of my other videos, but whenever I'm changing turret seal, I don't undo this clamp here because I find that if you undo this and you try and take the elbow off first, it doesn't give you much room, especially where this flue has been cemented in, so it's sealed properly. I find that if you leave this in and you lift up the whole turret with it, I'm probably going to have to use two hands to do it, but if you lift the whole thing up, you get a bit more wiggle room, so you can lift up the elbow connected to the turret and pull it out in one go. So there we go, turret seals out. I've just put a bit of tissue in there because there's a bit of condense coming back through there, but this is what it means. So leave that connected, and the whole, oh, there's a bit of brick dust. I was thinking, what was that? Yeah, it just comes off in one piece, and it gives you just that little bit more wiggle room. And now I can get this turret seal out of here and see the condition of it. Yes, you can see where it was starting to go. So definitely due a change. So I normally change that, and I will also change this flue seal here. Don't need to change that one in there because we've not disturbed it, but the ones that I have disturbed, I always change them over. So get that swapped out, and pop it back together. Right, so that's all been greased up around there. We've got the new turret seal in there, so nicely greased up. We've got the flue elbow, so that's all greased up there. New flue seal in there. So let's pop it all back together and then retest everything. Right, that is all back together nicely. Analyzer's just purging away, so as soon as that's done, do another sweep test underneath here, make sure that, and always check it as well. Well, obviously you should check it anyway, but I've had it before where I've put it back, I've tested it, and it's leaking. And what's happened is where I put the turret in, it's pinched the seal, or the seal slipped out a bit. So check all around, make sure it's all okay before you give the seal of approval, but hopefully we shouldn't have that. I've kind of preempted it. I normally don't do all this up because just in case I do have to take it apart again, I normally wait until I've tested it and then do the final clamps up. But okay, I've done it. I hope I haven't jinxed myself. Let's test it and hopefully it's all good. Okay, so just put the boiler into P1. He was calling me, I'll call him back after. Right, it's burning away. Let's test that. 1 second, pop the light on there. So yeah, 20.95. It's not dropping. Let's move it around a bit as well. Just making sure the readings are good. Have a look around the back. Cool. Right, I'm happy with that. Now I can finish off what I was here to do and then leave the boiler on and running. Right, so we are at a Wiesmann Vetterdins 111. Beautiful boiler. So if you haven't come across these before, this is a storage combination boiler. So you've got big, basically like an unvented cylinder storage tank inside the boiler. So that's why you have your combination valve with pressure reducing valve, PRV and everything that will regulate the water going into it. And then, like I say, it works as an unvented cylinder inside it. So it's like an alternative for if you haven't got the space to fit a full-size unvented cylinder, but you still got the flow rate and you've got multiple bathrooms. This is an excellent solution. It also comes in a 222, so this is the 111, but the 222 is a whole nother beast. This is a wall-hung one and it's heavy enough on its own, but the 222 is a floor-standing one. You can't lift it onto the wall, but that is another whole beast in its own. So the job today is, I've had a call from the customer to say that they've noticed that the heating's just been coming on by itself. Now, considering there's no hot water cylinder, hot water demand just comes on constant from the boiler when you run a hot tap. It will turn on to heat up the cylinder inside of the storage tank periodically to make sure that's at temperature. And then when you run a hot tap, you're going to just get instant hot water. You've got underflow heating zone here and a radiator zone valve there. Now when I put my hands on these two, they are, well, they're hot. Not hot, but there's definitely heat in them. Where I've been downstairs, there's a patch on one of the floor tiles down, so I'm going to get my thermal imaging camera and see where that heat is coming from. And you put your hand on it and it feels hot. The heating side, she said that the radiators were also coming on and I can feel a little bit of heat there as well. So I don't know if this zone valve's been letting by a bit as well or not. But what we're going to do, yeah, because look, the flow pipe there is, well, I can't keep my hand on there for too long. So there's definitely heat getting away from there somewhere. So perhaps it's the diverter valve inside boiler that's letting by, and also potentially one of the zone valves which are letting by as well, or potentially both, maybe all three. So I'm going to do a bit of investigation and then we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've got the boiler casing off and I've traced some of the pipe work. So we've got the primary flow coming off of the, let's see if you can try and get that there. So you've got the primary flow there, that's coming off of the boiler, going into this diverter valve. Let's try and balance, put that there. Going into the diverter valve there, and then that's the flow going to the heating side. And then that obviously heats up the plate, comes through there, and then returns back to the boiler. And the plate, the heat from the plate is what heats the stored water in the cylinder there. So I've put a temperature clamp on the heating flow pipe outlet, and I've put one of my other temperature clamps just on there. That's the return coming back out of the plate. Now already we can see on here, so that on the heating flow temperature we've got 37.8 degrees, and on the return back to the boiler we've got 33.4. So the heating flow temperature is already higher, and it shouldn't be because they've not been running the heating. Now what I'm going to do first is let's pop the boiler on, and I want to see when it kicks in, does that temperature, which is the top one, is that going to go up? Which, look, it is already. That's already 42, 43, 44, 45, 47. Now that may also be just because obviously when the boiler started up, the diverter moves from heating to hot water just to get itself into position. But now, look, it's fired up just for hot water on that side. So it's not doing any heating. So in theory, that temperature should be dropping, but it's climbing. I'd expect it to maybe go up a little bit where the diverter valve moves in and out. Oh, people are calling me. Let's cancel that for now. Let me just answer this call 1 second.
Answering.
Okay, so I can also see now I've put the other temperature clamp on the flow outlet from the underfloor heating zone valve, and that's going up as well. Now there's no demand for underfloor heating, which means it's trying to get through there. Now let's move it from there down to the heating side. I think this sun valve's okay. It's going to be a bit tricky to get a temperature clamp onto there. I think that's sitting on the copper. Yeah, that one's dropping. So that zone valve seems to be okay. But this one, yeah, that's definitely hot. So that's letting by, and the diverter valve there is letting by. So I can fix that, but I haven't got that diverter valve on me. I'm going to see if there's a supply local to here that's got that diverter valve. See if I can get hold of one of those diverter valves and see what I can do about that zone valve, and then get this. That's going to be what the problem is. So we've got two problems. We've got the diverter valve on the boiler, and we've got the underfloor heating zone valve, because that's where the heat is letting by afterwards. So let me see if I can get hold of them and then see what we can do about it. Right, slight change of plan. Boiler's covered under warranty. So it was only installed in 2021. So they've got cover until 2033, which means they don't have to pay to get that changed. What I'm going to do for them though, I'm going to swap out the actuator on here, because the spindle is moving nice and freely by hand. So there's nothing wrong with the valve itself. But when I took this off, it was a bit ropey. Didn't really want to spring back properly. So I'm going to swap out the actuator motor in there, or synchron motor, get that done, pop that back together, and then Visma are going to come and sort that out for the customer. So happy days all around. Okay, so swapped out the synchron motor in there. Where's the old one? So there was the old one. Now the new one, as soon as I spring that, there we go. That springs back, no problem. So let's get that back on there. That way, or was it that way? No, it would have been that way. What's going on with this? Oh, I was thinking, why has that happened? Oh, there's movement there. I was thinking that's dropped. Yeah, that's on there now. It's probably not helping. So we'll see if there's anything I can do to maybe just bring that up a bit, because it's probably not helping the fact that that is sitting against the waste pipe. Boiler's back on. Zone valve synchron motor has been sorted there. My job here is done. Just gonna wait for Visma to come out and sort that diverter valve out. Okay, so the next job I've got is I'm going to be helping Josh change an immersion on an unvented cylinder. So there's no low drain off point, so he's got his hose, got my hose bag. We're going to double up, triple up the hoses, basically run it from the flat, which is up there, and then run the hose down to outside there. So it's only a small 100 litre cylinder, but there's no other low points, so this is the way we're going to have to do it. Hi Josh. Let's do this. Run it down. I reckon just run it straight down there. And then lob it down. Oh, I've got to go back down again.
I haven't get this far, so.
Oh, okay, cool. Right. Let's get this all linked up and connected, and then start draining it. So we've had to use 3 hoses. That's my orange hose going down there, yellow hose out there, That's going out down the side. Drain off's not working. Great. So it's only a small 100 litre unvented cylinder. We need to change that immersion. But yeah, it looks like the first problem we've got is the drain off's not working. So let's try and get that sorted first. Right, we've had to have a change of plan. Siphoning it out because that drain off was seized. It's still a bit slow because it's got to come down and then up over the bath and then there. But it is what it is. So managed to wedge that shelf up a bit. That's in there, siphoning it out, and PRV is nice, going uphill. Interesting, but yeah. So these ones, for the unvented cylinders, you've got this special key. So to undo these, oh, who's calling me now? I'll call him back in a bit. You got to get the two lugs on there, on either side of the brass ring there, and then that's as a key. So you then twist it, it comes out, and then where's the new one? So that's how the new one looks. So that brass ring basically holds the immersion in, and you've got a rubber O-ring behind it which creates the seal, and then the actual thermostat then just clips onto it with two spade connectors. So there's the old one that's out there. The reason why we're changing this one is because Josh did some resistance checks on it, and we're getting open line between, no, you had a short circuit, didn't you? You were getting readings between live and earth. So yeah, getting that swapped out. It's going to be a little bit longer than we expected because of the whole drain off situation, but it's not a massive cylinder, so hopefully it shouldn't take too long. Right, that was taking way too long to siphon as it was in the bathtub, so we're going to basically try and siphon it off the end of this, ram this copper bulb into there, and pull of gravity should hopefully help it siphon out quicker. Right, Josh, you ready with the wet vac? I'm going to need you to wet vac it. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be flowing out that much, but yeah. So you wet vac it on the end of this, and then as soon as the water starts coming out, I'm going to jam this bit of copper in. Let's see. Josh is going to let us know. Actually, let's go and have a look. I want to see this as well. Did it work? It's so exciting.
Oh, it's like a jet, man.
Is it? Look at that. That is so much better than that pathetic little dribble that we had before. Right, that should now drain out quick, then we can get this immersion done. Right, cylinder is finally drained, so you got to basically get that key into the lugs there. Now you can either use a screwdriver or you can use a set of grips on it. Let's try with the set of grips. There you go. So that, to turn that little retaining ring in there. There we go, so that's loosened it. And now, right, before we undo it fully, just want to make sure that it is drained, because we've taken that out and there's no water coming out of there, and that's in line or slightly lower, so we should be all right. But what I normally do is get a little screwdriver in here to try and move the immersion. If you've got a slightly longer, well, similar size this, but it's a bit thicker, yeah. I want to dislodge, there we go, the rubber seal. Right, so we know that's good, there's no water coming out of there. So that comes off like that. And the immersion comes out. It's a bent one. There we go. That's the old immersion. Okay. Let's Just give that a little clean up inside there. Alright, now we should just be able to now this is the tricky bit because you got the coil no, there's no coil in this, is there? It's a direct, okay, yeah. So if you've got the coil, you've got to try and hook it over the coil, but the tricky bit is basically just trying to get it to sit straight. So I normally use a screwdriver like that to make sure it sits straight. Put the ring back on there. Alright, that's this is why these immersions are really annoying. I'm going to make sure that's sitting flat.
Using the same old locking ring? You're using the same locking ring?
Yeah, I mean, here's a new one. It's the same. It's just got more teeth on it. Go. Right, now okay, just make sure that's sitting flat. Because the last thing we want is fill it up and it starts weeping again. I think we're good. So now it's got to do that connection back up, do the hot connection back up, and start filling it before we wire it up, just to make sure it's not going to be leaking. Right, we are filled back up. Taps running inside. You're going to turn it off now?
No.
No, you're going to leave it running?
I'm not paying the water bill.
Oh, that's right then. Right, that's all dry up there. That's good. And immersion is all dry. Happy days. So immersion's been changed. No leaks. Josh is going to wire it up now. I'm going to tidy up my hoses. Job done.